Hi,
Hey Kevin, how are you?
doing good. How are you?
Great, thank you. Feeling better?
I am, yes.
Um, good, good. Well, thanks so much again for doing this and just taking the time to hop on today. I'm excited to chat further.
Of course, same.
Yes, awesome. All right. Any questions before we jump in?
I just like to dive straight into it.
Okay, let's
I'm
do it.
here.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what you do, how long you've been doing it, how you got started.
So I am a relationship coach and I do a lot within that, which is a lot of inner work on yourself and breaking any patterns that are conscious or unconscious that is creating a pattern that could potentially be showing up in your intimacy with others. Um, and I got started with that about 10 years ago. I had my own heartbreak with an ex fiance, and that left me in a suicidal depression. And then two relationships after that cheated on me. And I was like, what's going on? And I asked myself a question that is at the core of the work that I do. And I said, what is it about me that is creating this? And I took responsibility for the situation. And that's honestly the core of what I help clients with. Whatever's showing up in their life, it's like, well, how are you responding? How are you reacting? What's happening within you? And we use that as a map, if you will, towards personal evolution and personal growth. So you can live with more peace and love, a deeper connection to your intuition and more courage in your life. So it's anything about really tapping into the wisdom of your heart. And I am just kind of a guide and a navigator in that way. I work a lot with shadow work, if you're familiar, somatic work, and there's a ton of modalities that I use, but essentially that's what I do.
Beautiful. I love it. I love that you took your pain and transformed it into something so amazing and just a way to help others get through
Mhm.
that pain too, because it can be tricky and it's something that we can't see just in and of
Right.
ourselves.
And I think the easiest thing to do is to point a finger. But
Yeah,
when you're pointing the finger, you
totally.
got three pointing back at you,
Uh,
and it's like it's just constantly coming back to personal responsibility and
yeah.
what how can I shift and change out of the patterns of being that I've experienced in relationships intimately, and
Hmm.
how can I show up differently as a different personality as more of my real self. And that, I feel, is why relationships are the best spiritual dojo to practice in, like, because you really get to see yourself, because all of the little things that happen are so exaggerated, or they're more emotionally charged, so it's easier to kind of see what's happening versus like a day-to-day pattern.
For sure. Yeah. When you're living with someone, when you're really being vulnerable with someone, yeah, stuff is going to come
Yeah.
up no matter how much healing you've done. And I mean, I feel like most people haven't done that much healing therapy and such, but there's a lot of deeper stuff that goes into it, the somatic work and all of that. I love it.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what embodiment means to you and what it means to live from your heart.
Embodiment is a remembrance and a hmm, how do I express this? Embodiment is a relationship with what is. It's not about a potential.
Mhm.
What's true for you right now, even if it's grief or rage, like, that's an embodiment of your truth.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of the work and in stuff that happens is like people seeking to be anywhere else but where they're at in
Yeah.
their own reality. And yes, we want to transcend our trauma and we want to move forward towards more love, but you can't do that from a foundation of having not accepted what's true within you. And I feel like embodiment is accepting those things. It's, the basics of shadow work is bringing the unconscious to the conscious. So to integrate even a shadow part of yourself or a part of you don't like, maybe I'm codependent sometimes, or I'm manipulative sometimes, or sometimes I lie.
Yeah.
If you, instead of fighting that, if you just accept that, that right there is integration. Yeah, sometimes I do that. That's integrated.
Mhm.
And not having an avoidance to it, and not having, like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna have show that part of me. It's not there, and I'm gonna be somebody else. and also not reacting to it when it gets triggered.
Mhm.
Um, so with that being said, integration is really just being your whole true self without running from any feeling or part of you.
Okay.
And that's at least my lived experience and my definition of it. And I'm sorry, what was your other question?
Oh, what it means to live from your heart.
Mm. Well, it means to be integrated. It means to, I've sat a lot with this because that's such a big, awesome thing to say, but there's a lot to that.
Yeah.
And to put it as simply as I can, it's to live with more love, deeper guidance from your own intuition, and more courage.
Okay.
I feel like that's the simplest that I can put it, to be in more compassion, more love, more contribution,
Mm.
to have courage to act on the things that uh, needed to be act on, whether that's your own boundaries, whether that's justice, whether that's um, making changes in the world, right? Or diving into the unknown, just living with more courage, and then connection to your intuition, which is that your heart's wisdom, and being guided by the whispers of your heart instead of waiting to get hit by a semi truck before you wake up and listen to what your heart or God is trying to say.
Right.
So, um, I feel that to live from the heart is also to live in alignment with nature, and it's to also live in congruence and in alignment with God and what God's sharing for you to do and your path. If you're not really connected to the antenna of your heart, as I like to say, you can't pick up what he's actually trying to say. You can't see the things that he's orchestrating in your life because you're disconnected from that signal, like a radio dial. So if you're tapped into your heart, you can actually pick up the frequency of the radio signal that he's sending, and you connect the dots. You see the signals. You know listen to your intuition and all the things I just shared.
Mhm. So powerful, so powerful. And I mean, in a world where everyone, I don't want to say everyone, but I mean, I can speak for myself. I mean, there's always so much that we can be distracted from, and it's easy to be stuck in our heads
Yeah.
and stuck in judgment and the stories that we make up really about whatever comes up, whatever emotions do come up, or why we're wanting to avoid the pain or our blind spots or our issues. That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you help people connect more with their intuition, and talk a little bit more about that? Because I know somatics has become more and more popular, but I don't know that people really know what that means or what that is.
Yeah, it's become popular, and I think a lot of people take it out of context. And somatics means the wholeness of your being, quite literally. So it's not just your body, but people use it and they think the body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I'm helping people tap into their intuition, a lot of times it's not necessarily building a connection to that part of you, both in your how your brain's fired and wired and what you're paying attention to, and also somatically. Like if you aren't aware to, or you don't have a neural connections built to constantly being aware of what you sense,
Mm-hmm.
and you're always thinking,
Yeah.
you need to build that awareness. And so it is the forward motion, or the outer work, so to speak, of building new neural connections and getting the reps in of just scanning your body, being aware of how you feel. What does a yes feel like in your body? What does a no feel like in your body, instead of trying to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of letting that be the gauge. And there's layers to that, because then you introduce discernment, because for intuition, a lot of times your intuition can get confused with fear or a trauma response, and that's not appropriate anymore to the given situation. And so if you got to kind of have that discernment, and there's a different, like I said, layers to this. So that's really the outer work that I help people with. And then there's the inner work, which is more so removing what created the disconnection from your intuition in the first place, or processing what, when you overrid your intuition, and because you wanted to get love from somebody, and now you're still in that loop and in that pattern, and you're still running that even though it was 20 years ago, right? Like that. We don't consciously see these things, but that's what I help people with, is seeing them and then actually processing it, removing that block, or whatever pattern it is where you're abandoning yourself to
Mhm.
get love so that you can tap into your intuition. And so then it becomes a conversation of I'm allowing my intuition to be shown versus I'm I forced my way out of my intuition and now I'm going to force my way back in. It's a different energy, you know. So that comes with I don't know. Everybody's like a mystery box. I don't know what somebody's specific wounding in their past is until I get into a session one on one with them. And
Mhm.
I've got some good ideas. I've seen some patterns, but you know, even the way people react to things is different. And so I provide a safe space, whether it's an in-person experience or even on Zoom or a group course or whatever it is. I provide a safe experience and one of many modalities or tools to where that person, whatever they specifically need, their expression of whatever that blockage is from that wounding, it gets to come out. And so you are essentially cleaning and clearing the nervous system, as I like to call it, kind of like a drained or a clogged pipe. You
Yeah.
clear the pipe, and then I'm using analogies because it's really hard to explain this stuff, but after you clear the pipe, it's like you're learning to walk again as a kid. So that you're going to fall a little bit. How do I stabilize? It's like, whoa, how do I now set boundaries because I feel different, or I can
Mhm.
actually tune into how I feel. So how do I now communicate that with others? Like that could be a messy process, and I get people through that as well. So really, it is a process of releasing and shedding all of the ways you've abandoned or neglected yourself, and coming back home into your heart and who you really are, and solidifying that as your personality and your way of being moving forward.
Okay.
And from that place, I hope this is all making sense.
Oh,
But
totally. Yeah.
from that place, how do you then create the relationships that you want? Because it hasn't been properly modeled to us.
Yeah.
Maybe it has, but for the majority of people, it hasn't.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you don't know how to effectively resolve conflict because you were never shown it and have never seen it. Because even what's on TV is just good for
Totally.
drama and views, right? So
Yeah.
it's showing proper modeling and then actually giving the tools on how to do that. And that's something that I do as well with couples that I really enjoy is how they can support each other in their work and in their process by providing safety and to really show up as their partner, not their coach or try
Mhm.
to change them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that they can turn their disagreements or arguments into connection points.
Okay. Wow, I love all of that. And it makes total sense to me. I mean, so many people want to jump straight to, okay, we got to figure out and heal this unworthiness or this self doubt. But really, that's where it begins. Like you said, it is so many layers and it's getting to the root of it and small steps, tuning into what really is your truth and building on that. So
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Okay. And tell me a little bit about the 7 healthy needs in a relationship.
Ooh, that's good. I remember making that post, and I'm gonna pull it up so I don't get them wrong or get them out of order. This is something that I created after I have a podcast where I interview couples, inspiring couples, for the sake of modeling, which I just talked about.
Okay.
To just hear about their story and how they navigated, you know, storms in their relationship. And I'm looking for commonalities. This is my own personal research. I'm just doing it publicly of like, everybody does relationships so different. Like these couples are so unique. Their relationship is so unique. And they've all gone through some shit of
Hmm.
some kind,
Yeah.
but there's some patterns. And these are some of the patterns that I've already begun to notice after interviewing a few dozen couples.
Okay.
So number one is safety, vulnerability, transparency, being opened up to. Um, that is number one.
Hmm.
It's really important that there's safety in the relationship. If you're not safe in the relationship, like why are you in this person anyway?
Yeah. Well, and that kind
Um,
of, sorry, just to stop you right there, that kind of comes back to the whole resetting the nervous system, right? We can't do
yeah,
that if we're not feeling safe.
right. And you know, with this, it's you remember how I said these couples are different and their
Yeah.
stories are different. I've
Yeah.
had where they both didn't feel safe, and then they got into a relationship, and then they both found their safety together, and then they both created safety together. I've seen
Okay.
it.
Wow.
And then I've also seen couples that did their own inner work and then found each other. Right.
Okay.
So there is, like, I love the saying of like, you need to be healed before you get into a relationship, but it's not entirely true. Are
Okay.
you doing the work? That's what matters. Right. There is no there. There's no healed. Are you doing the work, and are you growing?
Yeah. And there's no right way to do it either, as long as you're
Right.
doing what's best for you. And okay. I love that.
Exactly. So creating safety, which is a need in the relationship. So it'd probably be important to understand how to create safety for yourself,
Mhm.
and how do you create somatic safety for others unconsciously and consciously. And even as we're talking about this, you know how there's love languages, there's also like safety languages in a way, which I'm just now thinking about that, because sometimes it's words, sometimes it's physical touch, sometimes it's a setting, and we can't know what somebody needs 90% of the time unless they tell us and they know what they need. So if you don't, because of self-abandonment, we abandon and neglect ourselves. When you're not tapped into your heart, you don't know what you need because you've been always focusing on other people's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's hard to create safety in a relationship because you don't even know what you need. So
Yeah.
you can't put that on somebody else. They didn't create safety for me. Well, you're not creating safety for yourself. Like, so there
So
is a balance there, right? So safety is huge. And that's a big part of what I teach on, which again covers being transparent and honest, which covers vulnerability, which covers being opened up to, not hiding things, not stonewalling, or, um, that's really important for masculine energies, especially, is to feel opened up to by the feminine, whether it's a man or a woman. And everybody needs to have honesty and transparency in the relationship. So that's there.
yeah.
Number two is the skill of effective communication. You gotta understand how to communicate effectively, and that's twofold. That's accurately expressing yourself and accurately understanding and listening to the other person and what they're saying. In order for effective communication to happen, most people think it's just, I'm going to speak my truth. But maybe you speak your truth and that's not how they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you speak your truth, but then because you're in a heated argument, they hear, oh, that means they don't love me because they set a
Yeah.
boundary or something, right? So it's important to understand that and learn that skill of how to hear properly and how to speak properly. And that, again, it's a skill, it's a muscle, it takes reps, but it's also could be taught.
Okay.
Number three is to own your shit. And I got this one from like one of the first podcasts because they had like these tenets they lived by, and that was one of them. Which basically is, if you mess up, say it. Like, own up to your stuff. Don't keep secrets. Don't hide things. Even cheating. Like, some of these relationships have recovered from that because it happened and they showed up, and it wasn't like they just found out. It was like, I did this, and I hate that I did this, and I want to work on it. Right.
Mhm.
So owning your mess ups, even it could be something like, I spent money on a new computer and I didn't tell you and I should have, and I'm sorry. Like, own up to it. If there's an
Oh,
agreement that was broken, own it.
yes.
It's responsibility, personal responsibility.
And builds trust too.
Exactly. Having fun together and separately is number four.
Mm-hmm.
So that's freedom and secure attachment styles, which is, I can have fun and I have my own life with my own friends and my own things that I do. And then you have your own thing that you do. And there's some overlap where we also come together and have fun. If there's too much come together and it's all the time us, that's by definition codependent. And if it's just two separate people and they're kind of sort of getting together every once in a while, that's more independent. And this is more of a spectrum. So what works for you and your partner
Yeah.
in a relationship. There is no right and wrong. I would just say it's very important, because also life has seasons. So sometimes it's going to be more one way and another. Um, and that's again where I don't see there's really an ultimatum here. It's just, it would be unhealthy to live in one all of the time, I would say. Right. So it's okay that it's seasonal or it's leaning that way, and whatever, but it's a gauge. Where are you at? Right. And it's important to have that. But these couples that I have interviewed have that distinction where they have their own space, they have their own life, and they have a life together. It's not actually like a keeping it secret or separate. I mean, but like they enjoy their own hobbies that their partner doesn't enjoy doing with them, right? Like one of
Yeah.
them that I interviewed, he's a good friend of mine. He loves running. His partner hates running, and she runs with him on his birthdays, but that's about it. Like, can you have your own thing?
Mhm.
Um, the skill of repairing ruptures, which is number 5. This one's huge. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be arguments.
Yes.
We can think about relationships like a dance. And sometimes if you're learning, you're going to step on somebody's toe.
Mhm.
How do you repair from that? And again, that's a skill of effective modeling that you get to learn. And if you haven't learned how to come back together after some misunderstanding or an argument or a disagreement, any relationship you have is kind of doomed.
Mhm.
My best friend actually got married because of this trait that he saw in his wife. He was
Oh,
like, dude,
wow.
she knows how to repair. Like, I think this is the one. Like that is that important
Totally.
to resolve conflict instead of
Mhm.
just letting it linger. I mean, even the Bible says not to go to bed angry,
Yes.
right? And so that's what this is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, well, yeah, because then otherwise resentments build up and it just
yep.
becomes like a bigger and bigger, thicker wall. And yeah,
Resentment is one of the big killers of relationship.
okay. Yeah, absolutely believe that.
Yeah. Number 6, each individual feeling valued and appreciated
Okay.
by the other
Mm,
and by yourself.
yeah.
Because we can't expect another to give us what we can't see within ourselves.
Hmm.
Even if they give it, you won't feel it because there's some unconscious part of you that's like, that's bullshit. I don't believe
Okay.
that, but I want it. Love me, see, love me, but I don't love myself. Like there needs to be it's a both and conversation.
Hmm.
So, um, whenever, even in my relationship, when it's like, man, I don't feel like she's respecting me, which has come up recently. I go, well, dude, you're not respecting your own boundaries right now. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then I shift that. And then I'm like, oh, she's been respecting me the whole time. I've just been blind to it because I'm in a lens of my own internal experience.
Yeah. And
Right.
being respected, that's a big one for men too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's own your shit, right?
That's it. And number 7 is commitment to the relationship and each other's well being.
Okay.
Are you committed? If you're, or is it kind of like a let's see how this goes? Like you make a decision and stand by your decision, which is bigger than your feelings.
Yes.
It's we're going to figure this out together because we made this agreement. And I understand that sometimes people grow apart and it's not meant to be anymore and that type of a thing. That's why it's so important to listen to the discernment of intuition
Hmm.
and take responsibility. All of these other things of like, have I done everything that I can
Hmm.
in myself to create a change for this relationship?
Hmm.
And you pray to God for it, look for signs, you'll see it, and then you'll notice, oh, okay, well, it's time to move on. Or no, dude, your fears are getting in the way. You're actually more than enough. Double down and give and stop get off the fence.
Yes.
Because if you're constantly playing the what if game, that's I think a very recent phenomenon that's happened in human history because of dating apps and how many people are on the
Right.
planet and stuff like that, and how connected we are with social media, where we have an overwhelm of options. And
Yes.
so there's always a question of what if.
Hmm.
And the only way to know if somebody's your person or not is to decide that they're your person. That's it. Because there's always going to be a what if, unless you meet every 7 billion people, 8 billion, however many we're at, people there are on the planet, you won't know.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I think it's just very important to go, well, who am I and what do I want? What do I not want? And get really clear on that. And that's something that I guide clients through in the very beginning. Because if you don't know what you want, you're just doing all this work to just spin in circles.
Yes.
What do you want? And then how can I work on myself to be a match for that frequency? Whether
Okay.
you're with a person now or not, to call a person in or to call a person up or to elevate the relationship, it's am I operating as the perfect partner for this perfect partner? Or
Hmm.
are there things that I get to work on?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, that's what I can control. It's not a game of hide and seek with this person, especially if you're looking to manifest them. I think
Right.
people think that a lot.
Uh,
It's a game of who you're being, because
okay.
that will magnetize them to you in perfect timing. I interviewed this one couple, and they both were in the same city that they didn't live in on the same trip, like, and cross paths. They were probably at the same coffee shop.
Wow.
And then 6 months later, they both internally did all this inner work, and they met again, and they like are now married, and it's amazing, right?
That is
But 6 months before, their soul wasn't ready, because
mm-hmm.
they had work to do. They weren't matching energetically in terms of who they're being. And
Right.
so that's why, like, you could meet the person but not see it if you're not being the caliber you're seeking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so many people talk about, oh, I'm not going to settle. Oh, I have standards, but
Mhm.
also, yes, are you being real with yourself about what you have to offer and can offer?
Yeah, and it's more than just like a worthiness game, because it's not about worthiness at all. It's everybody's worthy of love.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a deservingness.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a flavor. What flavor are you being right now in your soul, in your soma, in your body, in your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the flavor of ice cream you want for the rest of your life? If not,
Yeah.
then shift it, because then you'll get that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I realized on this list, I don't, it was was it a need of compatibility? No, I didn't put it on here, but continuous growth.
Oh, yes.
Um, that's the commonality of all of these couples that I've interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
is that they in personally, each individually, value growth as one of their top two values.
Okay.
And because they value growth, they'll grow through the storms,
Yes.
right? It's not like stagnant. This is how I am, and this is how we're going to be. It's,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a growth path and you're on a growth path, and let's do that fun game together. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the commonality of all of these amazing, inspiring couples that I've interviewed that have been together for more than a decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense because no one wants to be pulled or pull someone else through
Yeah.
anything or force someone to try and work through something and it doesn't work. So that totally makes sense. Hmm. Okay. I love that. And I love something you said too. You said something about feelings. I think people,
The commitment being stronger than your feelings.
yes. Yeah, because feelings are fleeting, right? Emotions are, they're not reliable oftentimes, and they are just a lot about the stories that we have or the judgments that we have. And yeah, it
I
comes.
really want to speak more on that, because it doesn't mean like suffer.
Okay.
If you are suffering in the relationship and your feelings are like, I want to leave,
Hmm.
that's why I'm saying growth, and that's why I'm saying own your shit, and that's why I'm saying all of these things. What can you do to shift?
Hmm.
And instead of trying to make the decision of if I should stay or if I should go, can you just focus on what within you should stay or go,
Yes.
and change yourself, and leave the rest up to fate and God to orchestrate that decision?
Yes. Yeah, because a lot of times doors will shut for us when we
Exactly.
do that. So,
Exactly.
mhm. Okay.
So it's why the work is so important to do on yourself.
Yeah. So do you have plans on writing a book about on those?
I do.
Okay, awesome.
I do. That's
I love
I have
it.
an intention of writing a book after I interview a few more couples, way more couples actually, and then really use that as the case studies for the book.
Okay, amazing. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And so talk to me a little bit about compatibility because I think especially with the dating apps and
Yeah.
the overwhelm of options, people are looking for chemistry and they think that means that that equals love or compatibility, but really it's chemistry and compatibility, right? So tell
Right.
me, okay. So yeah, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the compatibility piece is interesting, because if we're growing, these things and can change in our life,
Yes.
right? So again, I don't like to think of things as definite. You can say it's more formed right now, but things can change, people can change. We want them to change. This is what we're supposed to do. It's more of Do we want the same things for our life?
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
If one person wants to build a multi-million-dollar company and the other person wants to live in a van down by the river,
Not really
there's a
gonna work.
disconnect there. If one person it doesn't want kids and the other does, like for example, oh, that's something big, right? So more so a shared vision for your life. You're agreeing to go in the same direction. Maybe there are nuances and maybe there is some sacrifice at play there, but you're going in the same general direction together,
Mhm.
right? That's really important. Obviously, attraction is a part of that, which we talked
Mhm.
about. And your top values need to be the same. Because even if you're going in the same direction and one person values certainty and the other person values adventure, you're going to get into a lot of like stepping on each other's toes because the other person is going to be like adventurous and let's take a trip randomly. And the other person's like, oh, what the heck? Like it might be good medicine for each other, like the other
Yeah.
person might be like, oh, I should probably be a little bit more structured and planned out on these things so I don't put myself in danger. The other person might need to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that important because those things can change, but
Mhm.
having a top value of growth is, because if that's not there, then those other things can't really change. So
Right.
just
Well,
from
and that kind of
observation.
has to do with like the anxious and avoidant too. You're not saying that
Mhm.
that could never work out, but both people have to be aware and committed
Yep.
and be willing to work through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. What would you say is the biggest challenge, dating challenge for men?
Dating challenge for men. I haven't been in that game. So from the outside looking in and from talking to other guys, and let me just say like more conscious men. That's who I surround myself
Okay.
with.
Yes. Hmm.
Um, I don't know if it's challenge more so than decision. And this is something that women need to understand is you can't love a man into his willingness to marry you or to get into a relationship with you. He
Yeah.
could love you so much. And if he's not ready to get into a relationship or he's not ready to marry internally within himself, he's not ready to take on that role or go there yet. You can't get him to go there. And if
Hmm.
you do, you're going to resent him or he's going to resent you. So it's more of like is this the season of my life? Am I ready for that? And when he's ready, he'll make the decision.
Hmm.
And until then, there's really nothing you can do to persuade him one way or another.
Hmm.
It's a journey that men get to go on. And so I would say then the question of dating becomes, that could be helpful for women is really get clear on if what he's looking for.
Hmm.
Is he looking to settle down if that's what you want? Is he just looking to have fun? Is that what you want? Is he a guy that knows what he wants? Or is he just like seeing what there is? That's two different things.
Hmm.
And I think that's just really important.
Hmm. That's really helpful. Yeah, we don't want to be chasing someone or trying to change their mind because that
No,
doesn't end well for either person. So,
right. It
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. Okay. And how did you meet your partner?
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yep.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
we met
it.
on Instagram. I slid in the DMs and thought she was somebody else. It was
Oh,
ironically. And then we just started conversation and one thing
okay.
led to another. And here we are a year and a half later.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. Any other last tips that you think are really helpful for people to know through healing, through dating, through relationships, anything like that?
I would say there's a lot of advice out there. There's a
Hmm.
lot of good advice out there. There's a lot of not so good advice out there. There's a
Hmm.
lot of, especially on Instagram, man, there's so much like definites.
Yes.
Life isn't like that. There's answers, but there's not the answer. So I would say stop looking for the one, stop looking for the answer, and just connect with yourself and what's true for you and allow that to navigate the adventure of your life.
Okay.
And I think that is probably the most integral, integrated, noble, courageous act we can do is to look inward and know what's true for ourselves.
Absolutely. Yes. Especially in a world where we're all striving to get somewhere and achieve something, just the
Mhm.
power of stopping and slowing down and being present
Yeah,
is an amazing thing.
it is.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I have so many more questions for you, but I think this is a good time to wrap it up. So,
Yeah.
do you have anything that you want to offer anyone who's listening to this, and where would they find you? Where can they connect with you further?
Yeah. So on YouTube, I'll be posting a ton of free guided meditations and stuff soon. So you can find me, Kevin Crenshaw, on YouTube, The Heart Guy on Instagram, TikTok, all the places, and go to heartguy.com, click on courses, and you'll see a ton of free offerings. I would suggest, based on this conversation, I have a 14-day love challenge. And it's like every single day I drop in with a voice note in your emails for 5 minutes and share a lesson and something to do in the world that's going to help you live with more courage, get connected to your intuition, and live with more love. So that again is heartguide.com. You click on courses and it's the 14-day love challenge.
Okay. Amazing. All right. Thanks so much again, Kevin. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. So did I.
Awesome. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.